What if the Philippines, this nation known for its stunning beaches, warm-hearted people, and incredible resilience, had a story that reaches all the way back to the ancient pages of the Bible? Could this beautiful archipelago be more than just a tropical paradise? Could it be connected to the descendants of Noah, the great flood survivor, as written in the book of Genesis? And what if the legendary land of gold, Ophir, the mysterious source of King Solomon's riches, was not some far-off myth, but a real place? Possibly the Philippines? These aren't just wild theories. These are questions that spark curiosity and touch something deep in the Filipino soul. Because beyond the beauty and beyond the history, there may be a divine purpose written into the story of this nation. The Philippines is the largest Christian nation in Asia. That's not just a fact. It could be part of a calling, a prophetic role to play in a world that's searching for light, truth, and faith. Across its 7,000 plus islands, the Philippines carries a rich mix of traditions, languages, and beliefs. But what if, underneath it all, there's a spiritual thread that ties back to Genesis? In the Bible, Genesis 10 outlines what's called the Table of Nations, a list of the descendants of Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Each son became the ancestor of great nations and civilizations. Shem gave rise to the Semitic peoples, like the Israelites. Ham is linked to African and Middle Eastern cultures. Japheth is considered the forefather of many European and Asian peoples. Many scholars believe the Filipino people may be descendants of Japheth, or even Ham. That doesn't just connect the Philippines to ancient history, it places the nation in the heart of humanity's unfolding story. There's a blessing in Genesis 9:27 that says, "May God enlarge Japheth and let him dwell in the tents of Shem." That speaks of expansion, influence, and a future filled with purpose. And look around today. Over 10 million Filipinos live and work across the globe. From nurses to engineers to pastors and caregivers, they carry their faith, warmth, and values wherever they go. That global presence echoes the journey of Japheth's descendants, spreading across the world and leaving their mark. Even when looking at world changers today, like Elon Musk, whose family migrated across continents before making a global impact, we see a similar pattern: movement, resilience, and influence. The same can be said of Ham's descendants. Though often associated with struggle, they were builders of powerful civilizations, like Egypt and Ethiopia. These weren't just survivors. They were leaders, creators, and culture shapers. Think of Nelson Mandela, born in South Africa, a region often linked to Ham. He spent decades in prison, yet emerged as a global symbol of peace and justice. That's the power of resilience in motion. Now think of the Filipino spirit. Despite colonization, disasters, and challenges, the Philippines continues to rise, with hope, with faith, and with strength. That same enduring spirit reflects a divine hand at work through history. So what sets the Philippines apart? It may be more than just its beauty or its people. It may be a divine thread running through time, linking past to present, Genesis to today. Maybe, just maybe, the Philippines is more than we ever imagined. Imagine a nation born from a powerful blend, a union of two ancient biblical lineages, Japheth and Ham, one known for expansion and influence, the other for resilience and strength. Together they form a legacy of divine blessing. This is the story that may lie beneath the surface of the Philippines. The Philippines' rich cultural tapestry, woven through languages, traditions, art, and faith, tells of a people shaped by both survival and spread. From indigenous tribes to waves of Asian influence, from Spanish colonization to American occupation, this island nation has absorbed and adapted. Its story is one of unity through diversity. And spiritually, that story mirrors something deeper: Ham's strength, Japheth's reach. In many ways, the Philippines carries both. It's not just a country, it's a living picture of biblical prophecy unfolding across oceans and generations. Take a closer look at the global Filipino presence. Millions of Filipinos live and work abroad, many of them devout Christians. They serve as nurses, teachers, caregivers, engineers. Yet more than that, they serve as missionaries in everyday life. In places where traditional missionaries might struggle, Filipinos quietly carry the gospel, wrapped in kindness, humility, and faith. It's a powerful echo of Genesis 9:27. May God enlarge Japheth and let him dwell in the tents of Shem. That's more than just a blessing. It's a blueprint, enlargement, influence, and spiritual connection. When Filipinos embraced Christianity, brought through Spanish rule, yes, but embraced nonetheless, they entered into the legacy of Shem, the line from which the Israelites and Jesus himself came. In a spiritual sense, the Philippines now dwells in the tents of Shem. This isn't just poetic, it may be prophetic. And the deeper we dig, the more we find something extraordinary, a possible ancient link between the Philippines and one of the Bible's greatest mysteries, Ophir. Ophir, a name that echoes through Scripture with wealth and wonder, a place known for unimaginable riches, gold, silver, ivory, exotic animals, a land that helped build Solomon's glorious kingdom. And yet, no one knows exactly where it was. Some say Africa, others Arabia, India. But many now wonder, could it be the Philippines? The Bible describes Ophir as a land accessed by sea, delivering treasures every 3 years to King Solomon. The ships brought gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks, items known to Southeast Asia. The Philippines has long been rich in gold. Even before colonization, ancient Filipinos were master goldsmiths. Just look at the Butuan gold collection, evidence of advanced craftsmanship and maritime trade long before Western ships ever arrived. And what about the famed Balangay boats? These ancient vessels sailed far and wide, proving the Filipinos' ability to navigate the seas, trade goods, and connect distant lands. It fits the biblical portrait of Ophir perfectly. Not only gold, but biodiversity, exotic animals, rare treasures. These aren't just myths, they're echoes of history. Could the same gold that's shown in Solomon's temple have come from Filipino shores? Even if the mystery remains unsolved, the symbolism is powerful. Ophir wasn't just a place of wealth, it was a symbol of divine favor. God's blessing, flowing into Israel through a distant, bountiful land. Today, the Philippines still reflects that same blessing. Despite hardship in history, it shines with faith, generosity, and hope. A land that gives, that sends, that serves. Critics argue there's no proof, that Ophir must be elsewhere. But maybe the proof isn't in the ruins. It's in the people, in their spirit, in their story. Because sometimes the most profound truths aren't found on maps, but in the hearts of those who carry the legacy forward. The Philippines, a land of beauty, a people of faith, and perhaps a piece of God's ancient story still unfolding today. Critics often dismiss the idea that the Philippines could be the biblical land of Ophir. They argue there's not enough proof, not enough evidence. But in doing so, they often overlook something far more powerful than artifacts. They underestimate the legacy of ancient Pacific trade and the enduring spirit of the Filipino people. As a modern observer, the similarities between Ophir and the Philippines are hard to ignore. The local craftsmanship in Mindanao, for example, echoes the traditions of biblical artisans, goldsmiths, weavers, and seafarers whose skills were said to rival the best of their age. And what is the story of Ophir, if not a story of wealth with purpose? A tale of prosperity meant not for selfish gain, but to glorify a greater mission. Solomon's kingdom was elevated by the treasures brought from Ophir, gold, silver, ivory, peacocks. But these weren't just luxuries. They were symbols of divine blessing. In the same way, the Philippines has been gifted with natural resources, rich culture, and, perhaps most importantly, a faith that endures. Whether or not the Philippines is the actual location of Ophir, it carries a legacy that feels just as sacred, a wealth that goes beyond the material, a spiritual inheritance passed down through generations. As the largest Christian nation in Asia, the Philippines stands out like a lighthouse in a vast sea. In a continent where Buddhism, Islam, and Hinduism dominate, over 80% of Filipinos identify as Christians, most of them Roman Catholic. That's not just a statistic, that's a calling. It places the Philippines in a unique position to fulfill a powerful prophecy. In Matthew 24:14, Jesus says, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." That mission isn't just for preachers or prophets, It's lived out every day by ordinary Filipinos around the world. The Filipino diaspora, over 10 million strong, has become a global force in spreading Christianity. These modern-day missionaries serve as nurses, teachers, caregivers, and laborers. But in quiet, courageous ways, they also serve as bringers of light. In regions where traditional missionaries might face suspicion or even persecution, Filipinos bring the gospel through their lives, through kindness, humility, service, and love. The story of Christianity in the Philippines began in 1521, when Ferdinand Magellan arrived in Cebu. With him came Catholic missionaries who baptized Raja Humabon and his people, marking a turning point in Philippine history. Over the centuries, Spanish friars built churches, schools, and hospitals, weaving faith deeply into the fabric of Filipino life. Despite the pain of colonization, Christianity took root. And it didn't just survive, it thrived. Filipinos didn't just adopt Christianity, they made it their own. They integrated it into festivals, family life, songs, prayers, even everyday greetings. Faith became more than a tradition, it became a way of living. Think of the Feast of the Black Nazarene in Manila, or the Sinulog Festival in Cebu. Millions join these celebrations, walking barefoot, braving heat and crowds, not for show, but out of deep personal devotion. Filipino faith is not passive. It's alive. It endures. Even in times of disaster, the light doesn't dim. After Typhoon Haiyan in 2013, one of the strongest storms in recorded history, communities who had lost everything still gathered in makeshift chapels under broken roofs to pray and worship. They didn't give up. They leaned into faith. As James 1:2-4 says, "Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith produces perseverance." This perseverance extends far beyond the islands. Filipinos living abroad quietly nurture faith in places where it's not always welcome. In the Middle East, Filipino Christians gather in secret, forming small house churches. In Europe and North America, they've revitalized congregations with joyful worship and strong family values. One woman, Ruth Mananzan, a domestic worker in the Middle East, began organizing prayer meetings despite the risks. These small gatherings became lifelines of spiritual support, modern echoes of the early church. Matthew 28:19 calls us to go and make disciples of all nations. Filipinos are doing just that, often without pulpits or stages. Their lives are the message. Even high-profile Filipinos, like world champion boxer Manny Pacquiao, use their platforms to share the gospel. Through his fame, Manny speaks of his transformation and commitment to Christ, inspiring millions around the globe. But the journey isn't without challenge. As the world grows more secular, Filipino Christians face pressures of materialism, individualism, and distraction. The vibrant community life that once defined Filipino faith is at risk of being diluted by modern values. Yet even here, the nation pushes back. Church youth groups, Bible studies, retreats, and Christian schools continue to nurture the next generation. Leaders are rising, movements are forming. The flame is far from dying, it's growing brighter in the darkness. So, is the Philippines the biblical Ophir? Maybe the better question is this: does it matter? Because whether or not its soil holds the gold of Solomon, its people carry a treasure far greater, a legacy of faith, a mission of hope, a light to the nations. The Philippines may be small on the map, but in the story of God, it stands tall. The next generation of believers is rising, and with them, the torch of faith continues to burn brightly. In the Philippines, this spiritual flame is nurtured by voices like Bo Sanchez, a beloved preacher whose ministry has inspired thousands of young Filipinos to live lives rooted in purpose, hope, and divine calling. His message is simple yet profound. Faith isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. And through his example, many are discovering the joy of walking closely with God. The Philippines' identity as the largest Christian nation in Asia is no coincidence. It is a living testament to the enduring power of faith. Filipino Christians are not just churchgoers, they are modern-day apostles. In everyday places, from busy city streets to remote villages, and across the seas and foreign lands, they carry the light of Christianity into the darkest corners of the world. In doing so, They fulfill the prophetic words of Matthew 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. But there is another layer to this story, one that reveals a deep prophetic bond between the Philippines and the land of Israel. This alliance is not simply political or historical, it is spiritual. In Genesis 12:3, God speaks a powerful promise to Abraham. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. This verse reveals a divine principle. Nations that stand with Israel step into a stream of God's favor, and the Philippines has stood firm. During one of history's darkest hours, the Holocaust, the Philippines extended a hand of compassion. Under President Manuel L. Quezon, over 1,200 Jewish families fleeing Nazi persecution were given refuge. It was an act of profound humanity, rooted in the Filipino heart, a heart known for hospitality, empathy, and moral courage. This bold move made the Philippines a rare light in a world filled with shadows. Like Oskar Schindler, who saved more than 1,000 Jews in Europe, Quezon's decision reflected an unwavering belief in human dignity. The Jewish families who found sanctuary in the Philippines never forgot. Their gratitude continues to echo through generations. Then, in 1947, the Philippines again made history, becoming the only Asian nation to vote in favor of the establishment of the State of Israel. It was a vote for justice, for prophecy, for faith. Much like David standing before Goliath, the Philippines stood tall, small in size perhaps, but mighty in conviction. This wasn't just diplomacy, it was destiny. And today, the bond between Israel and the Philippines remains strong, strengthened by shared values, trade, tourism, and technological cooperation. Both nations have endured hardship, natural disasters, conflict, adversity, but both have risen with resilience, united not just by history, but by a shared calling. The alliance between the Philippines and Israel is a powerful reminder that faith can shape history. Compassion, courage, and conviction can guide nations toward divine favor. As Genesis 12:3 promises, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and the Philippines has indeed been blessed. But this connection is more than historical, it is prophetic. Biblical visions of the end times often include images of nations playing roles in God's final plan. In Revelation 7:9 we read, After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. This powerful vision speaks of a global gathering, a unified people worshiping God not by nation or race, but by faith. And in this vision, the Philippines finds its place, a nation with a deeply rooted Christian identity, a people scattered across the globe, nurses, caregivers, engineers, laborers, artists, bringing faith to every continent, a country that has stood with Israel, a people who have endured, served, and believed. All of this positions the Philippines as a compelling candidate for a key role in the unfolding of prophetic history. It is a nation rich in spirit, shaped by struggle, and sustained by hope. A nation that blesses and is blessed. A people whose hearts beat in rhythm with divine purpose. In the tapestry of biblical prophecy, the Philippines may be more than just a name on the map. It may be a thread in God's eternal story. After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. Revelation 7:9. This beautiful, mysterious vision isn't just about heaven, it's about purpose. It speaks of people from all walks of life, from every corner of the earth, united by one thing: faith. And when we look at the Philippines, we begin to see just how powerfully one nation can reflect this vision. With over 80% of its people identifying as Christians and more than 10 million Filipinos living abroad, the Philippines has become more than just a country. It's a global witness, a spiritual lighthouse. From Saudi Arabia to Canada, from Italy to Australia, the Filipino diaspora carries something deeper than just tradition. They carry the light of the gospel. They are modern-day missionaries, not necessarily trained in seminaries or sent by organizations, but sent by life, by work, by calling. Take Manny Pacquiao, for example, a world champion boxer with a global audience, yet unashamed to speak of his faith. Every punch, every title, every interview is another platform to declare the goodness of God. His story is just one of many. Or consider Ruth Mananzan, a domestic worker in the Middle East, who, despite restrictions, gathers fellow believers in quiet rooms to pray, to worship, and to encourage. These are not just acts of faith, they are acts of courage. In places where Bibles are banned and churches don't exist, Filipinos gather anyway. They bring Jesus into the most hidden corners of the world. It's no wonder, then, that the Philippines aligns so uniquely with the prophecy of Revelation 7:9, a multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language. The Filipino spirit is present in that multitude, singing, believing, enduring. But there's more to this story. The Philippines doesn't just reflect spiritual strength abroad, it's rooted in it at home. Time and time again, this nation has turned to faith in crisis. When typhoons flatten cities or political unrest shakes communities, it is the church that stands. It is prayer that rises. In the streets, in the homes, in the hearts. This is the endurance spoken of in Revelation 14:12. This calls for patient endurance on the part of the people of God who keep his commands and remain faithful to Jesus. And let's not forget the country's strategic location in Southeast Asia. While the Bible doesn't map out modern geopolitics, prophecy often hints at nations rising to prominence in God's unfolding plan. The Philippines sits at a crossroads, culturally, politically, and spiritually. It's positioned not just for trade and influence, but for impact. The Philippines has also taken bold spiritual stances, most notably in its relationship with Israel. During World War II, when many nations turned away, the Philippines opened its doors. Over 1,200 Jewish families fleeing Nazi persecution found refuge in Manila. And in 1947, the Philippines stood nearly alone in Asia, casting a vote in favor of the creation of the modern state of Israel. These aren't just historical facts, they're prophetic acts. In Genesis 12:3, God says to Abraham, "I will bless those who bless you." The Philippines has honored that promise, and perhaps in turn, it has been honored with its unique place in global Christianity. Now let's go deeper still. From the ancient story of Noah's descendants to the mysterious land of Ophir, a place famed for its unimaginable wealth and said to have supplied King Solomon with gold, the Philippines has long been part of the conversation about biblical origins and end-time significance. Whether or not the Philippines is truly the biblical Ophir, it carries both material and spiritual wealth that echoes the power of that ancient name: faith, resilience, generosity, sacrifice. These aren't just cultural traits, they are prophetic markers. And in a world growing colder and more divided, the Philippines continues to live out the words of Matthew 24:14. This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. It's happening right now, in quiet hospital rooms in Europe, in construction sites in the Middle East, in prayer meetings hidden from the eyes of the world. The gospel is going forth, not through celebrities or stages, but through nurses, teachers, caregivers, seafarers, boxers, and house helpers. The Filipino people are living Revelation 7:9, and they don't even need to say it. They live it. So what role does the Philippines play in the final chapters of God's story? A quiet one, perhaps, but not small. A role woven with love, tested by suffering, and crowned with purpose. This is more than history. This is prophecy in motion. And the story is still being written.